Welcome to the Ugly Bug Podcast, a production of the Ugly Bug Fly Shop and Crazy Rainbow Fly Fishing.
Welcome to the Ugly Bug Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be sitting down with Curtis Fleming, host of Fly Rod Chronicles, to discuss how he got into the production side of fly fishing, what brought him on to, or what brought him into fly fishing, as well as kind of the growth with his family and his daughters and the fun trips we've been able to have over the years. So let's take a quick minute and step away for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
The Ugly Bug Podcast is proudly sponsored by Flyoming, Wyoming-rooted fly fishing apparel and accessories, challenging the traditional mold, designed by anglers for anglers.
Curtis, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Blake. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've had a fun little week together. Super stoked to have you back, and glad we could talk you into coming in and joining us here.
You don't have to twist my arm to get me back out of here.
Yeah, I'm sure listeners are interested in a whole group of questions, but we'll just kind of start basic. Like, first of all, how'd you get into fishing? Was it a family thing, or was it just you and your interest that kind of got you going initially?
It's a family tradition. You know, you grow up in West Virginia, and it's either coal mining and hunting and fishing, and I guess with me it was bobber fishing and worm dunking.
Sure.
And but fly fishing was a little different. I really didn't get into it until college and then after college. I was a teacher after college, and I got to take my students in teaching. I got to take them fishing, and that's really what got me into it.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then as far as how did the show come about? Did you start that while you were still teaching, or was it a quit and a start a whole new career, or how did that all work together?
Yeah. So I was a teacher, and I worked with troubled youth, and I got to take those kids I got to take them fly fishing, and I got to venture into a little bit of gas and oil, and it gave me a little extra money, and with that, I always wanted to do a hunting fishing show. I just didn't know how to do it, and at that time I had a family, I had a young family with Autumn and Lakin, and just didn't have the gumption and the balls to come home and say, Shelly, I'm going to start a hunting fishing show,
I understand.
And I just thought fly fishing always fascinated me, and I didn't see a lot of fly fishing shows on networks, and of course you got to get sponsored, right?
Yep.
And how do you get sponsored? With hunting, there's a lot more money out there, right?
Right.
And you got to figure out how to stay on TV. It's expensive, and trying to figure it out. I wanted to come up with a concept that was different, and I didn't want it to be ego driven. I was not a great fly fisherman. I got to be around some good people that were great fly fishermen, and so I instantly wanted to tell stories, and I wanted my show to be different. I didn't want it to be about Curtis Fleming.
Yeah.
So I put together a pilot, got to know some people at the Sportsman Channel, sent the pilot in, and then they said, can you do 12 more shows just like that? At that point, it's like, what do you do with it, right? How do you get it sponsored?
Right.
So then you got to go home and tell your wife, I'm going to quit my job and go for it.
Right.
And so at that point, that's where you become brave and say, I'm gonna quit my job and make a run for it. I had a 3-year plan of how I was going to do it, and I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah. And you're now celebrating how many years?
So this is our 21st season.
21st season. So you're filming. Would that be filming for 22?
Yeah. So we just completed our 20th season.
Okay.
We're filming for our 21st season.
Okay.
When we first did it, Blake, a season's 13 episodes, and when the first 4 seasons, we filmed 26 episodes. And that's a lot of time away from the family, a lot of time on the road.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to get out there and just put it out. I didn't want to go back into a 9-to-5 job. I wanted to give it everything I had. I knew I was not that Blake Jackson. I knew I was not going to make the USA fly fishing team.
Neither's Blake Jackson.
Come on, man. I've fished with you, man. I was not that guy. And again, and I'm not name dropping. I had time to fish with people like Lefty Cray, Bob Clouser. I got really lucky. I got to go down in North Carolina and fish with the North Carolina fly fishing team. I got to go down and fish with like George Daniel and Lance Egan and see how those guys fished. Sure. And I thought it's not me, but I'm going to tell good stories, and I'm going to make it about the destinations. I'm going to make it about the people I meet, and I'm just gonna tell good stories, and I may never fish that well, but someone told me once about 4 or 5 seasons into it, and they said, Curtis, if you keep doing this, eventually you might get good.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
And I don't know, every now and then I hear a guide say, wow, man, you present a good fly. Man, you're a good fisherman. And I shrug it off. And I think I was always the class clown. And I always think that I tell a good joke or I get laughed at. And I really don't care what people think about my game, because I always say I get to go and see great places, and I don't care what anyone thinks about my double haul. I don't care if I ever learn how to spay cast. As long as I can go to the Seychelles, as long as I can go to England, as long as I can come out to Casper, Wyoming, as long as I can go to Ugly Bug, as long as I can see Crazy Rainbow, I really don't care what people think about me.
Well, there's not any need to, right? You've got a proven track record.
Yeah.
You're doing what you love to do. And that's, I think, one reason the show's done so darn well is that, your passion comes through, right? Right, very much so.
And a business partner of mine, Ryan Harmon, told me once, I said, Ryan, when do you know that you made it, kind of thing? And he said, when half the people love you and half the people hate you. And I said, that'll never happen, Ryan. I said, because I'm not going to let people hate me. And he's like, oh, do you have a lesson to learn? And I said, why? And he said, and this was back in like maybe 2006 or 7. He said, and social media really wasn't out there. And he said, you got to get your name out there. You got to get your company out there, and you got to use social media. And he said, man, you're going to get beat up on social media. Yeah. And I said, I'm not going to let that happen. And he said, man, do you have a lot to learn? Right. And I said, but I'm a nice guy. And he said, man, half the people's going to hate you, half the people's going to love you. And I don't know. I remember, and I'm not going to mention a name, but it's a name that I'll never forget. A guy in Idaho that said, if you ever come out here and touch my fish the way you touch fish in West Virginia, I'm going to shoot you with a 30-06. And I thought, God, that's mean,
That's pretty mean.
Yeah. And I thought, I'm not trying to harm fish. I'm a conservationist. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to do the right thing and everything. And I really have had thin skin, and I really have taken to heart what people have said and over social media, to the point where, I've hired out who does my social media, because it has hurt feelings. And I remember you and I have talked over the years to where at one point you told me that you just dropped social media.
Still don't have it.
And I got jealous as hell. I was like, man, why has Blake not got social media and I got to have social media and I got to look at all the stuff?
I'm not looking for sponsors though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
and my wife and my kids knows that retirement for me, we're going to have the biggest bonfire in West Virginia. And you boys from Wyoming's going to see the fire glowing, because all my platforms, from TikTok to Facebook to Twitter, we're burning all of our social media. All right? Because the meanness really does suck.
It's always a weird thing to me too, because, person to person, people would never say the shit that they say online, right? There's no accountability.
Ever.
And, that's one reason I made an exit, right? I didn't feel like it was improving my life. I might as well step away from it. But I see the value in it, right?
You and I just left a restaurant, right?
Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, yeah. We saw people. They were stoked to see us. Yeah. Yeah, they told some crazy stories from years ago that I forgot about. Yeah, but that's all right. Yeah, it was. It's always good to see people. It's good to connect with people, and I think that's one plus to social media. Right, that's an angle that I miss out on. But
I'm a couple thousand miles from home, and a guy comes up to me and says,
"Recognizes you."
Yeah, and
watched them all, following your whole career. Yeah,
he's like, "I just saw you and the governor from West Virginia." And, I love your show. I love what you do. I love what you stand for. And those kind of things makes the one or two haters go away.
Yeah,
right?
Sure. For sure.
Yeah.
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 Those are people you'd much rather have.
Right.
Half the time I think the haters, it's just a jealousy sort of thing usually, right? But
we can deal with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. So in all of your travels, I guess, if we were to try to break it down, which is a nearly impossible thing to do, but break it down as far as, I guess you're in a unique situation that your family, and I've been fortunate enough to be introduced to your family, your lovely family, years ago, and watch the girls grow up and feel like I've been a small part of it, but somewhat like, it's cool to see them from time to time and see how they've, evolved through careers and marriage and all this sort of stuff. It's really unique, but you're unique in the sense that your family has been so involved, right? And been part of the story and really part of your path. It wasn't just you going on cool destinations. You really took the time to include the girls and make them part of it. Do you have a few of those that really stick out in your mind that the girls were able to take part in with you?
Yeah, and just as of lately. So the last 2 years, both girls have kind of crossed over that rainbow they both got married. I think as a male and an ego, we all want sons, right? And want those. Man, God gifted me with two amazing girls, and it's crazy. I got two fly fisherman hunter girls that I always challenged guys that dated them, like, you're gonna get your butts whipped by these two girls. You got a lot to live up to with these two girls, because they fish, they hunt, with those girls, Lakin, she met Dylan and got married in college, and Dylan's a hunter fisherman, and Lakin went on to be a PA, kind of dabbled with, I want to take over Dad's show. She's seen that it's more than just fishing, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Autumn, she just got married to Evan a couple months ago, and Autumn just become a doctor of pharmacy, and now she'll be out here tomorrow fishing with us, and I got to see those girls grow up on the show. And one of the first shows we did was out in Wyoming at the Spotted Horse Ranch down outside of Jackson Hole. Mm-hmm. And they never really even touched a fly rod at that point, and we were joking around today about how they didn't even know how to put lip balm on their lips, and they come out here to the West and got to discover that part of it. So, Wyoming was one of the first shows that they got to be on, And then just as of last week or a couple months ago, Autumn chose to get married in West Virginia at one of our favorite places at Harmon's Cabins, and she had her 13th birthday party at Harmon's, and then she chose that's the place that she wanted to get married, And then Evan proudly showed you today at dinner. She had 7 minutes in between her getting married and the reception, and she chose those 7 minutes in her wedding gown to go down to the river and land a fish. And she caught a rainbow trout in her wedding gown, and she went ahead and set the stage that I'll catch the fish in wedding, and Evan, you'll net the fish for me. So I think Evan knows.
He knows
what his life's going to be like right?
Yeah, he knows.
And you and I would have done the same thing, right?
Oh,
yeah. So it kind of started there with the girls, like I said, at Harmon's, and then it started out in Wyoming. I've gotten to take them to Belize. I got to take Autumn over to the Seychelles. That's like a bucket list trip for any of us, right?
Any angler.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I've gotten to take them to Islamorada. I've gotten to take them. Our good friends, the Little Leafs. I got to take them to the Deschutes. And I think the Little Leafs might be like the first Native Americans, husband-wife guides, and I got to take them out there during the salmon fly hatch.
Very cool.
And both of them got to experience that hatch and catch fish on the salmon fly.
Yeah. And
the list goes on. So experiencing that with a family is just so cool, and to do it this long. I don't know how much longer I get to do it. It's sponsor driven, mm-hmm. But every day I thank God, and I'm just blessed to be able to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Current sponsors. I guess let's just go quick gear equipment list sort of thing. I know you're a hatch guy.
Yeah,
we rigged up, put a few new fly lines on some hatch reels today, and those ones didn't have lines on them yet, so I assume they're on the newer side of things. They looked pretty shiny and new.
Yeah.
Looked in great shape. But obviously a badass reel company, makes great products. Really enjoy them.
Yeah.
Beyond Hatch.
Yeah, and Hatch also is a family. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that again, I think a lot of the fly fishing industry is kind of family driven if you kind of look at it, and through COVID, and Blake, you can maybe help me through this. They kind of backed off a little bit with their production, and here's the deal. I think a lot of fly fishing shows, and there's a reason why there's not a lot of fly fishing shows. There's not a lot of money out there in marketing for fly fishing, right?
No.
I've had to learn, if I'm going to stay in this business, I've got to figure another way to skin it. Mm-hmm. And with Hatch, it's a father with some daughters, and even though they couldn't pony up or sponsor during COVID, I just love the product.
Yeah.
So I kept them aboard.
Sure.
And during that time, Adam Ashcraft reached out to me, and he's like, "Man, I love how you keep hashtagging us, or you keep showing. So, hey, I'm going to help you out. So that's and that's a good example.
Sure.
And thank you for bringing them up. Like Ford, who's been good to us, our good friend, back home at Toothman Ford, who's been really good to us. Those kind of things. State of West Virginia. When I first started my show, I was trying to figure out like how has shows made it over the years, and when I watched an outdoor show that I always watched, it was Wide World of Sports, okay?
Yeah.
And it was Mutual of Omaha presented Wide World of Sports.
Right.
There were so many people that thought that show, the name of it was Mutual of Omaha. Well, Mutual of Omaha, and I know a lot of kids today is like, well, what was Mutual of Omaha? It's an insurance company, right? Well, that's a classic way of marketing.
Sure.
And when I went to West Virginia at the beginning of my show, and I asked them to sponsor them, and my good friend at the time, now it's Senator Manchin, and who knows what's going to happen with politics now, and I hate to get into the politics game, but he was the governor at that time, and I said, Governor, will you sponsor my show? Because I want to market my show, Wild, Wonderful West Virginia Presents Fly Rod Chronicles. And he said no. And I was just like, oh, the bottom's dropped out of this.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you have not proved yourself yet. And I said, well, how do I prove myself? How do I get this thing kicked off? And he said, you got to prove yourself. So I had to go out and prove myself, right?
Yeah.
But I needed that presenting sponsor. And so I had to go out and prove myself.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I'm very fortunate right now and have been for West Virginia. And I still think West Virginia, we only have 1.8 million people in our state, but tourism is huge. And you and I talked today about the New River, the Golly, and how many people come there for tourism.
Yeah.
And they get it. They get why I promote fly fishing and tourism.
Yeah.
So, West Virginia's been big at that part of it. And, just little things like, right here in your backyard, you got Matt Castle here, like Cliff Boxes,
Yeah.
who you got to look at these little sponsors that I can call Matt and say, hey, we got a kids event here in town or whatever. I want to give out some boxes. And I'm sure when you do events,
he's always one of the first to help.
Yeah. So, when you look at sponsorships, from money to people that just want to help, want to do things, it's why I don't sleep at night. I probably should get Ambien as a sponsor, right? It's
probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. It is interesting to me how, and I'm sure some viewers don't know, but it seems, big business is definitely creeping its way into fly fishing more and more, right?
Right.
Hedge fund groups, big ownership groups are buying up some of these smaller companies, and you can't be upset at the smaller company for making a smart financial decision.
Right.
But it has trended that way more and more, right? And I don't know that it's a negative yet, but it's one of those things when I look forward, I worry about it becoming kind of that family of fly fishing, right? The small Matt Castle types, or a family-owned business thing where it's just no longer going to be the case, and it's now going to be a major corporation running all these little mom and pop shops and putting them under one roof. It scares me a little bit, but then I kind of also take a step back and I'm like, well, yeah, but then there's 8 new companies I know of that are sliding in there, and they're the cool little local community company that's grassroots and growing, and so maybe it's just a revolving door, but it kind of concerns me a little bit when I think about some of these big conglomerates.
Yeah, and I mean, just like going down the river with you and Dustin, I just kind of take it all in, and then I look over and hear you guys are rowing the boat, and I look over and it's Sawyer Oars.
Yeah.
Who they look at me as, well, I'm not rowing the boat, but Curtis is in the boat, And Sawyer Oars has been around since what, like 1967?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they get it. They get that people that are watching our show, and I mean, now we're on the Discovery Channel, we're on Pursuit Channel, Wild TV, and all these, different digital components and
Sure.
YouTube and stuff. They get advertising.
Yeah.
So that, so we've formed a partnership, and we've partnered up with them. You've used them for how long now?
24 years.
Yeah.
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 I don't think I sell them in the store. I don't think there's a better brand on the market, right? They make a great product.
And just like, the Ugly Bug Fly Shop, it's like, why would you advertise with Fly Rod Chronicles? Crazy Rainbow Lodge. It's like, why would you advertise with Fly Rod Chronicles? I mean, why would the state of Wyoming or the CVB of Casper? Well, I mean, you get it. You get the eyes that are on our show, right?
I'm a numbers dork, right? So I'm a production guy, and it's like, yeah, the reach is big enough. It brings enough revenue in. It makes sense for me to try to get you guys back as often as I can, right?
Yeah, and Blake, I'm not kidding you. When I hear that, Coach Randy Mazey from WVU comes to fish with you, or I hear that Mr. Measures from Georgia, or I get little things when somebody's just out of the blue is like, hey, I watched your show and I went out and fished at Crazy Rainbow, or hey, I watched your show and took a group of guys, and this was so cool how we got to break it up, and just people that's been good to me, and I got to bring a couple groups out here. Mm-hmm. That makes me feel so good that we're able to do those kind of things.
Yeah.
That's how it should work.
Makes me feel good too, partner.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's been a great asset for us, and
yeah.
I want to thank you for that, and thank you for obviously, in a small way, letting me become, part of the show, part of your life, part of your kids' lives, right? Yeah. It's and hopefully, as we move forward, I got to meet some of your really cool buddies.
Yeah.
This morning they were already talking about coming back again, right? And obviously from my angle, it's a marketing thing too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always easiest to return the guests that you've had, and bringing them back again is great. But we surely appreciate the marketing help that you and your team have lended our way and helped us achieve. So. Yeah, I just want to thank you for that again.
And Blake, what's so great about what you guys do? And I got to bring a congressman and a wife here a few years back. I got to bring the former NRA president and his wife here, and just a little while ago, I was texting Sir Nick Faldo, and he's an addict so bad. He just lives to fly fish. Is at any time I can text or I can call or talk to any one of my friends at any level, novice, beginner, expert fly fisherman. You have so many different waters. Someone that's never picked up a fly rod, somebody that's on the USA fly fishing team, and say, come from Wall Street with your 3-piece suit and show up at the fly shop. They will put you in Sims waders, whatever waders, tell them what size shoes you wear. They will outfit you. They will put you. They'll even put you through a psychological test and say, you got Dustin who will preach the gospel to you. You got Cody who will preach the non-gospel to you and take you down a demon list of all the bugs and the Latin names and stop and get you the best burrito in Alcova, right?
Yep.
You got every personality of everything. You want fast water, you want a nymph fish, you want a dry fly fish, You want to go to the Bighorn? You want to go? You guys provide everything that any fly fisherman. And I just saw a high school classmate that said she wanted to experience what Yellowstone provides on TV.
Right.
The ranch life or whatever. You guys can provide anything that anyone wants to play. They want to be a fly fisherman. If they want to go to their 10th year class reunion and say, I want to hold a fish that looks like this, that's what you guys can do.
We try.
You don't try, you do it.
No, I appreciate it.
And that's what I love, because I get everything from my husband's a fly fisherman. I want to buy him a beginning outfit. My husband wants a fly box. My husband needs a new fly line. My girlfriend just got into this. She needs pink waders. Call Ugly Bug Fly Shop.
I appreciate that.
And that's, for me, it takes a lot of heat off of me, because I can say, call Blake Jackson. He can hook you up.
We can hook them up.
Yeah.
We try our darndest to hook them up, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So upcoming shows, what you got coming up?
Yeah. So while I was here, I got a text, and everybody asks me all the time, what's your bucket list trip, and all that kind of stuff. And for me, man, God's been so good to me, honest to goodness. If tomorrow I get dealt a bad card, I can go out and say, thank you. I've seen it. I didn't get to go to Kamchatka, and you know what? Brittany Griner has showed me I don't want to see Russia. Putin, keep it. I don't want to go see your ass, man. Keep it over there. I'm done. I don't want to go see Kamchatka. I got a message that it looks like we're going to go over to Iceland. I got a good friend who said, let's make it happen. I'd like to go play with some of those sea run brown trout. I think I'm going in October.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to work on that as soon as I go home. We got some West Virginia shows I'm really looking forward to. Our department or our division in natural resources is amazing to work with, and every day I get to work with them as a gift. So we're going to go home, finish up some shows with them, and something that I'm really jacked up about. But we're winding up our 21st season, and then as the holidays will blink our eyes, I get to be that kid that says, what is 13 shows that I get to do for our 22nd season? And I'm going to be like, all right, Blake, what have we not done? I mean, you took me to a place today that I got to say, all right, Blake, here, you take the fly rod, and we're going to dry fly fish, and you got to show me your magic, which was so cool.
Got my ass kicked for a bit, but
you figured it out, and that's what's great about fly fishing.
Yeah,
it's a puzzle, and you figured it out.
Yeah,
and you know what? I guarantee you, if we play in something next year, it's going to take us all but about 10 minutes to figure out something that we've not done yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we got the carp fish.
Yeah, we need to do that again at some point, too.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Curtis. Appreciate you very much, man.
Appreciate you.
And look forward to the next few days. Your daughter's coming into town. She's bringing some friends. We're gonna show them a good time, and look forward to the rest of the week.
Let me give you one more example of how you guys accommodate. My daughter is coming with my daughter and my son-in-law is coming with 6 of their friends, and we just found out last night that one of the friends has just become pregnant, and was like, she can't have sandwiches.
Lunch meat.
Yep. Never heard of that. I guess it's processed food.
Yeah.
And Blake's like, no problem. I mean,
well, that's not just me. That's a lot of good people behind me and good staff like Lori that makes it happen, right?
But
doesn't miss a beat.
And I want to close on one thing. Lori's amazing. All your staff, your staff. It's not a bunch of college kids that are looking for summer jobs. Your staff are professionals and career people that work their tails off. They are people that work for your clients. Their hearts are totally into this.
Yeah. It's taken a long time to build that sort of team, but I take a lot of pride that I've been able to find them. And at this point, it's stay out of their way and let them do their thing, right?
Yeah. It's
when I can, but
top shelf. You have built an empire here. It's amazing what you've done.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, brother.
Man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Ugly Bug Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you have questions or feedback, reach out to us via email at info@uglybugpodcast.com or leave a comment on our social networks.